Hello, I'm Amy Muller, co-founder and director of community education at Get Satisfaction. Welcome to Community College. So we've recently updated our stats offering, and today I'll be giving you an overview of what's included, as well as what the stats mean to you and what you can do about them. We'll talk a bit about community health, and then I'll walk you through the different reports available on the stats page, and we'll leave time for questions at the end. So if you're responsible for your community initiative, then you're likely also responsible for reporting on the success of that initiative. This means that you need to determine the health and effectiveness of your community. Effectiveness is actually pretty subjective depending on your company's business goals for your community initiative. For instance, are your goals to increase customer loyalty by a certain amount, or to capture a certain number of new customers, or to deflect a certain number of one-to-one customer support requests, or to increase revenues, or maybe it's to identify advocates. And is your community public or private? Is it a community of interest, a support community, consumer-facing, B2B? All of these are questions that you need to ask to figure out, what the goals are and then what effectiveness might look like for you. So as you can see, it's sort of a very unique and personalized task that you take on. Measuring community health is actually pretty straightforward. Qualitative assessments about the kinds of interactions you're having in your community and the relationships you're building are a key part of measuring community health. The community manager really just kind of knows in their gut if their community is a happy and healthy space. They know when they're having engaging conversations and building and deepening relationships with customers. They even have a good idea of who their strongest advocates are, just based on their experience of being in the community. However, quantitative measurements certainly play their part, and this is why all paid plans on Get Satisfaction have access to this updated stats page, which we have just recently released. So on this page, we provide you with your aggregated Net Promoter Score, a count of new topics, new replies and comments posted, the topic source, employee participation, community sentiment, a list of your top 10 most active users, and your top 10 most active topics. So there's just a little peek, and you get to this page via your admin section. So you have to have admin level access for your community, and then you'll see a stats link in the sub-navigation on the left side. And with the exception of the Net Promoter Score, all of these different measurements can be viewed by week, month, or year. So we're about to take a quick dive into each of these, discuss what they mean and what they can do to improve your community health and improve your results. But first, let's talk about the 99-1 principle. So this principle posits that 90% of users are the audience, or lurkers. These are the folks who read or observe but don't make active contributions. 9% are called editors, sometimes modifying content or adding to an existing topic, but they rarely create content from scratch. These are your community members who may vote on a topic or star a reply, maybe reply or comment once in a while. And then 1% are your creators, driving large amounts of the community's activity. These are the people primarily responsible for the majority of new topics and meaty replies. So when considering what successful metrics look like, keep in mind the size of your audience and then apply this principle. Also be sure that you consider how easy you've made it for users to find your community. What percentage of your audience are you actually funneling there? So let's break down the stats page. In this top metric bar, you get a few roundup numbers of some of your key stats. First up is the Net Promoter Score, as you can see right here. This value is designed to give you quick insight into how people are feeling about your organization. It specifically uses data from the rating widget on your community homepage that looks like this, where it says rate and then your company name there, and is an aggregated all-time value. Improving this number is bigger than just pulling on different levers in your community. This is really about the perception of your brand, although it can certainly be impacted by the experience that your customers have in your community. For some more insight into the Net Promoter Score, Wikipedia is a great source to go and really understand what that score means and how to interpret it. And that benchmark values for it really do range. So the new topic metric is one way to measure how effectively you're pointing potential users to your community. Remember, to assess how well you're doing, you need to consider that 99-1 principle. Keep in mind that as the community matures and people find answers to their questions without having to ask, you can actually expect this number to flatten. So that's not a bad thing necessarily. But if you're not happy with your results, what can you do? If you feel like you're not getting enough new content, perhaps you need to create more obvious entry points, install or tweak your widget placement, or run some promotions to stimulate more activity in the community. New replies and comments are an indicator of engagement. You want to see a decent ratio of replies to topics, which is an indication that conversations are occurring. Keep in mind that this metric includes all replies and comments from everyone, community members and employees. As the number of new topics flatten, you want to see replies and comments continue to come in at a steady rate. If your engagement is low, be sure you're responding to topics in a timely manner, thus providing positive reinforcement for using the community and keeping members interested in the dialogue. Responding within 24 hours is actually recommended, and even less time than that is ideal. It may require consistently doing this for the first 6 to 12 months of your community before you really have an engaged and thriving community. Also, try soliciting feedback or sharing of best practices and tips in the community. Topic source is an indicator of entry point effectiveness. Are your visitors using your widgets, accessing the community from the mobile web, or coming directly from Facebook? With topic source, you can see where your customers are coming from. So there's no really right or wrong answer here. No specific results that mean it's healthy or it's not healthy. It just really depends on what your own goals are for traffic sources, if you have any. For instance, if you're hoping to get a lot of community traffic from your website but aren't, you might want to consider your widget usage and placement. This metric can also help you determine what promotions are working. Did you run a promotion for the community, for community engagement in Facebook, and then see a big uptick in content creation from our Get Satisfaction for Facebook app? If so, that tells you that was an effective campaign in an effective channel. Next up, we have employee participation, which is an indicator of volume and the nature of employee engagement. How engaged are your employees? Are they replying? Are they promoting their replies as official responses when applicable? Are they posting company updates regularly with news and promotions from your company? If employee participation is low, you may want to inquire to understand why. If your community has been around for a while and has a lot of thriving and positive customer-to-customer engagement, then it might be okay to have low employee participation. But if that's not the case, it's vital that employees get in there and engage users while doing their best to manage sentiment and keep the community moving in a positive direction. You can also compare the replies number between this graph and the new replies and comments graph to determine the percentage of replies in your community that are coming from end users. The sentiment chart gives you a roundup of how community contributors are feeling based on their optional selection of emoji tags in our satisfactometer. That's this little guy here that you see when you're posting a new topic or posting a reply to a topic. This tells you, how are your community members feeling at the time that they're posting a topic or reply. You can track your community's mood over time, and you can even look for trends based on day of the week. The goal here is pretty clear: more positive than negative. So if your sentiment metrics are skewing negative, consider what you can do to turn sentiment around. You may want to take a look at our negativity plan, and you can download the PDF at this URL here. And that can give you some ideas about managing sentiment and handling negativity. A good start, though, is to be sure that you're leading by example with friendly and human interactions in the community. Use the active users table to identify your potential champions. Who are your most frequent posters? You want to use this as a starting place to track who you should be keeping an eye on. Then follow their content to see if they're contributing in a positive, productive, and helpful way. This chart excludes employees and existing champions so that you can spot new champ candidates more easily. Your goal with this chart is to map active users to knowledgeable, helpful, and positive content. If your most active users are only purveyors of negativity, you'll want to work on managing sentiment and on preparing and announcing a champions program to encourage more activity from your subject matter experts and more helpful members. So again, you might want to reference that negativity guide that I mentioned in the last slide, which is linked here again. And you might also want to take a look at our champions guide. We have a champions program template that you can download here as a PDF. And that can give you some tips and suggestions for how to think about setting up a champions program, how to announce it, how to promote it, how to manage it. There's a lot you can do around that, and that can really help you with managing the tone in the community as well as user engagement. And finally, we have active topics. And this table just shows you at a glance what topics are hot in your community in the given time period. Which ideas are members clamoring for? What problems need to be solved as soon as possible? This table tracks the top 10 topics based on the number of replies, comments, and +1 votes. You just want to be sure that you're participating in the most popular topics, keeping community members up to date by setting the status and posting replies. Remember to promote the best employee replies as official responses so all viewers of these topics are sure to see the most up-to-date information from the company. And also, remember to archive topics that have been resolved or answered and are no longer relevant or of value to the community. So if you've got a topic that's just been at the top of this list forever, but really it's something that's from the past and not really relevant today, then make sure you archive that topic to get that out of this list and have fresh content bubbling up to the top. So in summary, with our updated stats page, you get the Net Promoter Score, which tells you how likely your customers are to refer their friends to you. You get new topics, which tells you how effectively you're driving traffic to your community. You get new replies and comments, which tells you how engaged your community is. Topic source lets you know where your community members are coming from. Employee participation lets you know how active your employees are in your community. Sentiment lets you know how your community members feel. Active users let you know who your most frequent posters are. And active topics tells you which topics are getting the most play in this week, month, year, whatever time period you've chosen. So that is an overview of our updated stats page. We're pretty excited about it. We feel like it really brings a lot of value to all of our customers on all paid plans at every level of paid plan. And we hope that you guys agree and can get a lot of use out of it.